If you're struggling with a decision of whether to move to Atlanta or somewhere else, I want to share with you the 10 regrets that people that have moved here have had so that you can make the best decision possible for you and your family. Hi, I'm Kelly Allen. I'm a realtor here in Atlanta, and I've been helping people move into our state for over 25 years. And I get questions every single day about what should I be thinking of when I make this move to Atlanta. And so I've compiled a list of 10 things that you need to make sure that you understand about Atlanta before you make your move here. We're going to start at the very top, which is number one, and the number one thing that you need to be aware of when you move to the city or anywhere in the metro Atlanta area, and that is going to be traffic and commute times. Now, this is something that people talk a lot about in Atlanta, and I know LA has their traffic and New York has their traffic, but we definitely do. All right, so Atlanta is really known for its heavy traffic and long commute times. This can be made even worse the further away that you live from the major arteries in Atlanta. The major arteries are I-75, Georgia 400, I-85, I-285, and I-20. So if commute time to work and commute time back home is really important to you, then you're going to want to make sure you research those commute times. You can do that one of two ways, actually 3 ways. Number one, start online. So using Google Maps, you can predict commute times based on when you want to get to the office and when you want to come home. That's a great way to do it. The second way to do that is ask locals. If you're narrowing down areas that you want to live in, ask the people that live there, that work in the area that you're going to be working in, what are their commute times like? Can they take back roads? Do they have to take the major arteries? Get a feel for that. And then the third is ask people that you work with as well. Where do they live and what are their commute times like? But I promise you, living close to an artery is going to shorten your commute time and make traffic a little more bearable. Okay, number 2, it's hot and it's humid in Atlanta. Something that most people know, but until you've made it through an Atlanta summer, you might not fully appreciate. The hottest, most humid month of the year is going to be in July, where temperatures are in the 90s. The heat index can even touch 100 sometimes. And again, we're just a very wet city, so it is humid. Now, the good news is that there's access to air conditioning everywhere. There's very little time you're going to spend, or you have to spend in the outside, unair conditioned, hot, humid air when you're going from your house to your car, from your car to the office, and etc. So we've got the air conditioning perfected here, and so really the inconvenience is not that great, but it does get hot and humid. The third regret that I hear is that people are really surprised with the nature that we have walking around on the floors. Now listen, Atlanta is known as the city in the forest, and forests do come with their own types of insects and bugs and creatures. So I can remember the first time I saw a snake here in Atlanta. It was big, it was totally harmless, but you're going to see a snake probably when you live in the metro Atlanta area. Also, you have what we lovingly refer to as palmetto bugs. Everywhere else in the country, they call them roaches. We call them palmetto bugs because that's just a prettier way of saying it. But they live in the pine trees, and we have a ton of pine trees. So again, they're harmless, but they're big, and they can surprise new people to the Atlanta area. Okay, number 4, great public schools that your kids might not wind up going to. So what do I mean by this? Metro Atlanta has some of the top public schools in the state of Georgia. And I'm a mom of 2. I've got a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old. And I know firsthand how I can move into a great school district and then realize that that school district may not be the best fit for my child. That happens a lot in Atlanta. You make the best decision that you can with what you believe your child will need in the future, but that can change. So that's why I say Atlanta has great public schools. Metro Atlanta has great public schools, but you still might wind up going private even though you bought in the best public school that you could. Another thing to think about too, another regret that I've heard about is that people wish they would have shopped in lower scoring schools. Great schools can say 10 out of 10, but your kid might fit in wonderfully at a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10. I know so many families who limited their search to the best school in the area, and then after living there, wish that they would have opened it up to some of the other schools as well. The other thing to note about our public schools is the better the public schools, the more competitive it can be to get into our two top universities in the state, which is the University of Georgia, go Dogs, and Georgia Tech, go Jackets. It can be very competitive, and if you've got a kid that's dead set on going to Georgia or Georgia Tech, then putting them into the most competitive high school situation in Metro Atlanta may make it even harder for them, ironically, to get in the school of their choice. Okay, number 5, allergies. I know so many people who have moved here from different areas who really struggled their first year due to all of the allergies that we have. So what are these allergies? Well, we've got a lot of pine trees, so there's a lot of pine and other tree allergies. You also have ragweed and you have mold because, again, we're a damp city. Now, we're not as bad as some of the other cities. I have families moving from different parts that come here because their allergies are so bad where they're coming from. But you have to understand, you're coming to a new place that has new environmental factors that your body is not used to yet. So no matter where you live, you're probably going to have new allergies pop up, but don't worry, you'll probably get used to them. And if you don't, you just pop Claritin for a couple of months out of the year and you'll be fine. Okay, number 6. There's a serious lack of public transportation in the Metro Atlanta area. This can be very difficult for people who are moving from major metropolitan cities to understand. In Atlanta, we've got MARTA. MARTA tends to run north, south, east, and west and doesn't really come outside the perimeter that often. We do have some bus services as well, but basically, if you're going to live outside the perimeter, you are going to be car dependent for the most part. A lot of people don't like that. They want to have their public transportation. Some people are totally fine with that, but just know that before you move here, that if public transportation is something that's high on your priority list, living inside the city limits might be what's best for you. Number 7, when you're moving to Atlanta and you're a night owl, you need to understand, especially in the burbs, that things can close a little early. Now, if you're in the city of Atlanta, you've got lots of options that can be open all hours of the night. But if you're looking at Metro Atlanta in the suburbs, you'll notice that things start shutting down around 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. That's restaurants, bars, shopping, things like that. So just know that if you really like to stay out late, living in the burbs might not be what's best for you, or you might just want to bring the party back to your house. Number 8. All right, so we've talked about the heat of the summer. Now let's talk about the cold of the winter. There's just variable weather in Atlanta. I can't tell you how many people have been so surprised with how cold it can get in Atlanta. Now, here's the thing. Our coldest month of the year is January. It usually stays above freezing, so you're going to be fine. And we get snow every once in a while, but usually we just have a couple of days or evenings of black ice that you might have to dodge a little bit. Now, we did have one big epic ice storm about 10 years ago, which we were even featured on Saturday Night Live with how embarrassingly we handled that. Since then, Atlanta has really upped its salt that we have access to for when ice emergencies happen. Our roads stay pretty clear now because we really learned our lesson. Number 9, mosquitoes. We have mosquitoes in Atlanta, but listen, like most southeastern cities or cities in the South, we have mosquitoes. So that's not an unusual thing if you're looking in the South. The good news is that our mosquitoes are not as big as Florida or Louisiana mosquitoes, but they're there and they are annoying. So what a lot of people will do is spray the perimeter of their yards between March and October to get rid of the mosquitoes so you can actually be outside and not get eaten. Now, another option that you have is to bring some organic or some full-on deep bug spray with you to spray yourself and your clothes and keep the mosquitoes away. way. Also make sure that you don't have standing water anywhere on your property because mosquitoes love to breed in standing water. So you're going to have a million baby mosquitoes if you have any standing water on your property, most likely. And the last regret that people have had when they moved to Atlanta is the cost of living. And the cost of living in Atlanta has been increasing every year, just like it has across other major cities in the country. Now, Atlanta is still one of the most affordable cities to live in. Although if you live in Atlanta, you might not feel that way. But one of the things that's contributed to the cost of living rising is just the lack of affordable homes and the lack of new homes being built. And that's really kept housing priced high. Plus, you have a huge demand. If you think about it, Atlanta is such a huge city and it can be a mecca for young people just graduating from universities around Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, and North Carolina. So you always have an influx of people moving into the city. You've got low housing inventory and you've got high demand. Couple that with the inflation that we've been dealing with over the past year and a half, it's been challenging. So those are the 10 regrets that people have had when they moved into Metro Atlanta. If you have any, put them in the comment box. I'd love to see that. And please click subscribe if you want to see more videos about what it's like moving to or even around Metro Atlanta.